friends. I believe we have done it. I've cracked the code. We have cracked the code. I was talking with a friend of mine and doing some hard thoughts about the way that I view relationships and my relation to other people, how hesitant I've been towards romance just as like a general idea, and at this point I think I've come up with a basic conception of where I will go forward, or what future events are going to look like. So I've always really heavily valued identity. If you watch this channel enough, you'll probably be able to tell that I'm kind of enveloped within the spectacle of self-concept. Especially as a creative person, someone who makes things, the experience of being alive I see as a sort of continuous piece of art, that the things that you do and the reactions people have towards them, and the way that they stack up in the face of all of those other experiences serve to create a kind of narrative that even if an experience is negative in the moment, even if an experience is negative for a lot of moments, it's all culminating into something larger, which is representative symbolically or more directly of a broader picture, which is identity. And that identity is represented through the things that I make. And that's an attachment. That is a very strong attachment that I've developed through making these videos and beforehand. If you've heard me tell stories about how angry I was as a kid and how I hated normal people, and in many ways still now hate normal people, a lot of that comes down to self-concept, to looking at my own self-concept and valuing that over other people's, through lifting myself up by putting other people down. But it also comes down to a deeper interest in the spectacle that I've observed throughout my life, of specifically tooling situations where, like, I've literally made myself suffer just to have an experience that I thought would be aesthetic. And what I mean by aesthetic is not like visually appealing, but that everything surrounding that experience is like amplifying a specific feeling. That the things that I'm doing are all culminating into a feeling that that is the most of that feeling that you can get. That, like, imagine a scenario where the music is perfect, the setting is perfect, and those things perfectly tie in to what you're thinking at the time, what's happened at the time, etc., to maximizing the aesthetic potential of a specific scenario. That to me, for the longest time, has been more important than the implications of what I may be feeling at a given moment. That the broader implications, the overall feeling is ultimately going to be informed by what has occurred overall. That I can say that I am a character, that I am, I've had these experiences that have maximized the aesthetic potential of a given scenario. That's a very abstract level of thinking to be on. That's very different from the way that normal people conduct their lives, because normal people aren't constantly viewing themselves in the third person, normal people aren't coming at everything they do with the perspective that they're viewing someone else doing it. And so there's a kind of enjoyment that I get out of those things because of that third person view, and probably because of the kind of emphasis on self-perception that I referred to earlier. It's about maximizing the emotional potential of a situation, to feel it as strongly as you can, or to produce a situation that has all of the elements culminating together into something that forms a perfect synthesis, that everything works together to make something distinct. And like, that's one of the reasons why I think it's so easy for me to say that I don't mind being depressed in the moment, because depression is a momentary thing. It's just a momentary thing that's occurring over days and days and days. So I'm not really viewing the emotions as if they are occurring at once at that time. Obviously, I'm experiencing them temporarily. They're right there. But I'm also recognizing that there is a broader trend that I can point to, which is that I'm insane. That by being insane, I'm able to derive more meaning out of life simply because I'm not a normie. And that differentiation between myself and other people has been a source of meaning for me that is so strong, that self-perception as a kind of a way to lift myself up in life has been so strong that I've been willing to intentionally make myself suffer more, simply in order to differentiate myself from those other people, to be able to say that I am different, and because I'm different, I'm more interesting, and that I would rather be interesting than be happy as a rule. And that as a result of that, paradoxically, being interesting is being happy, even though it may not seem that way in the moment. This is an issue, however, because while I can explain all of that, fairly logically to you in this setting, there is also, the potential to be happy in another way, in a more traditional way, in the way that, everyone wants to be. That by existing in this highly aestheticized fashion that I'm describing, I may be being more understood through communicating my life through my writing and through these videos, through creative things, using creativity as a deeper form of communication than simply communicating. While that may be the case, that I'm able to get people to understand me through existing in that kind of way, there's an ever-present desire that I have wanted to confide in people, to just let everything out and to be entirely honest, to be entirely myself, completely vulnerable, and that you hear everything comes out, and you're willing to understand everything as it comes out, because you just don't care. You're willing to listen to all of it and to try and see it from my perspective. The majority of people don't have time to do that. I'm a crazy person, so I come with a bit of required reading, or I'm a bit of an egotistic person, so I feel as though I come with a bit of required reading. And so because of that, I'm trying to communicate in the deepest way I can to everybody, but you don't need to do that. You don't need to get everyone on the deepest level. You don't need to always be striving to be 100% with everyone that you talk to. You just need one person who you can be close, who you can get close to that upper percentile with, who's willing to try, and as a result of you making them understand yourself, they're also understanding themselves, and through them understanding themselves, you're also understanding yourself better. It's a mutually cooperative relationship where both parties are gaining from being together. That it's a kind of love that builds on itself as it continues going on, because life is building on itself as it continues going on. That you're going through the journey together, and as you go through the journey together, you're able to learn and develop and be comfy. Like, I'm presenting these things in kind of grandiose terms that you're getting better alongside one another. That's the ideal situation. But it's also just having someone who you have enough understanding with to be able to just not say anything. To be able to, they can do a movement or something, and you'll know what they mean. You start recognizing the little things that they do each day. And that ability to have someone that you trust and that you're able to be entirely honest with no matter what, that you and them against the world are able to make it together, is an appealing idea. I don't think it's an appealing idea given the context that I gave earlier, but that's ultimately an attachment that I have. It's an attachment like anything else. And when, placed under scrutiny, and I think we should be constantly trying to put our attachments under scrutiny to see which ones are the strongest ones and which ones are ultimately worth pursuing, will it break? Will I find that I prefer the more direct pleasure of having someone that I care about in a reciprocal, romantic way? Would that be a preferable option, living in just that slightly more normal way, as opposed to going insane? Because I've considered going insane to be an ideal for so long for the reasons that I stated earlier. Would that be a preferable option? I really don't know. There's a part of me, again because of attachment, that wants to say it wouldn't be. But I can't say that for sure. And I think, given that I seem to exhibit the general trend among humanity to have someone who does completely understand you, but I seem to just be projecting it out onto all people rather than just one person. It's more unhealthy to exert that much energy trying to get all people on your level than it is to just have one person on that level and who's constantly evolving along with you, and that you can get something out of by doing the same thing for them. It motivates a lot of art. Like my videos like These Four Walls and Laundromats Are Cool, for example, entirely motivated out of suffering. Those videos would definitely not exist without me being suicidally depressed. That's just a fact. And in a way, those feelings are good because they're constructive, because they can make things that exist beyond your lifespan, or they can make things that are so meaningful that they kind of make it all worth it in the end. But the question is, which one would you prefer? Which one would you ultimately get more positive feelings out of? And I cannot decisively say which one I would prefer without being biased through viewing things through the lens of my own self-concept, which is ultimately fallible, like many aspects of the ego. And so, when considering how universal my desire, at my core, appears to be, and how it's being acted out through making things, why don't I just try? Why don't I just live alone for long enough, let's say a year or so of me, constantly reading and studying in my room, of becoming more well-read than I am, and really like honing in on my areas of interest before going into college. And then going into college and really honing in on my areas of interest even more heavily in an academic setting. And then participating in things like activism, in things like student groups related to my interests, potentially finding someone who shares those interests on that level that I can connect with them as a person. It may take a long time. It may take a lot of effort. It may be by sheer chance that it happens by accident, but the chance is there. And the question comes down to me is, am I going to be willing to take it? Am I going to be open enough to experience, to allow myself to potentially let go of that attachment? Which, I think the logical answer in this discussion should be yes. That is ultimately the right thing to do, because you're allowing yourself to experience more things that could potentially be for the better. Will I challenge my attachments enough, my existing attachments enough, to live a life that could be better than the one I'm currently living? That's what it comes down to. And maybe it turns out that I come away from all of this with the same mindset that I had before. Maybe my mindset is strengthened, that I'm more resolute in what I already think. I don't know. And that willingness to say, I don't know, should underpin, in my opinion, everything we do. because we really can't know most things for sure. The only thing we can know for sure is how many things are unknowable, or rather that many of them are unknowable. And with this context, I think it's easier to detach yourself from the ego or the products of the ego, like the kind of emphasis on making things and being a character, the striving to go insane, quote unquote, that I've had. Here's to challenging our preconceptions and our ways of doing things. If you know me, if you've been on this channel for a long time, you know that I'm about constantly evolving, that I literally go insane if I'm not changing and challenging myself and trying to be a different person today than I was yesterday. And as a result of that, you're going to see radical changes, perhaps radically alter the content and who I am at a given moment. But that's always been that's always been the goal, is to be radically authentic and to challenge who I am at a given moment, because that's how you progress. That's how you get better. That's how you improve your current state of being. So I'm open to it. I'm not going to close it off. I'm not going to close the chance to find love, to find a meaningful existence with another person off. And while my active pursuit of it is not in the near future, but in the future in general, it is going to be a thing that I do pursue, and that as a result of pursuing it, I will be a changed person in one way or another, even if I stay entirely within the confines of where I currently am in terms of mindset and how I will do things going forward, or how I have wanted to do things going forward up to this point. Even if that is the case, at the end of the day, change is going to be the main trend within my thinking, and that's that.